rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio.
Your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary.
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times.
Star Wars #1!
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Well, it would seem that the pieces are all falling into place throughout the Disney organization. Now, a big change in leadership at the top. This follows, of course, Dave Filoni and Lin-Manuel Miranda's ascendance to the C-suite there at Lucasfilm, the big chairs. And I think that there's kind of a model that's emerging between the Filoni and Brennan move and now Josh D'Amaro and Dana Walden. We'll get into all of that because there definitely are going to be ramifications for our beloved franchise of Star Wars. So we'll break all that news down. Plus, we've been trying to get to this because it's really fun. It's really interesting. Some updates from our spies about this Star Wars 4K upgrade. We know that we're going to see the re-release to the theaters of the original theatrical cut of Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. Of course, in this incarnation, just called Star Wars. But what about the other two films? And what about home video release? What about streaming options? So we're going to talk about all of that. Plus, speaking of Disney and Disney properties, there was going to be this crossover. Kevin Feige at one time had an idea for a Star Wars movie. We all remember the rumors. Kevin Feige is going to come in and do Star Wars after Marvel. And that seems to be well in the past. But what was that all about? We've got some details. Plus listener feedback, Star Wars and pop culture, and so much more, time permitting. But you're in the right place for a Star Wars conversation. We are your source for the Force, Rebel Force Radio. And by RFR, I mean myself. My name is Jason. And with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. Here we are. It's like the calm before the storm. Don't you sort of feel it? It's just before Star Wars gets back into the theaters. We have a new animated series. Boy, I was thinking of myself the other day. It's like, wow, when did the Bad Batch sign off? That was like early 2023? Am I right with that?
Yeah.
Or was it 2024? But regardless, 2 years between animated series seems rather odd. And I think that's something that has been sort of plaguing not only Lucasfilm and Lucasfilm Animation, but the Disney company on a whole, as this giant corporate shakeup was slowly finding its way. And now it seems like it's been going on for a couple years. No question about it. I mean, Bob Iger started talking about leaving as soon as he came out of retirement and came back to Disney. He started talking about, well, I can't be around here very long. I got this yacht. You see, I want to see the world with my wife. I can't be here. And then all of these years have now passed by, and Iger is finally bolting. It's about
finally
time.
out. Finally out.
Fresh
Well, I
blood.
think he was sort of this reluctant hero that came back to save the company. We were in the throes of COVID. You had a relatively inexperienced CEO in Bob Chapek. But there's also some comparisons we can make, some obvious ones, between Chapek and the new guy, Josh D'Amaro, both coming out of the parks. But I think that he used, there's an old expression, never let a crisis go to waste, because there's opportunity in there. And I think Iger saw that as an opportunity to come back. I don't think that the board had much confidence in Chapek. I don't think he was necessarily the favorite in that race. I think he was chosen because Iger felt that he could be pulling strings, honestly, outside, and he was pulling strings. We know he never really left. I think, if I remember some of the reports, I don't think Chapek even ever moved into Iger's office. He wasn't there long enough, and Iger kept an office there and all of that. So it was a very odd transition. Hopefully this one is for real. There's no COVID to blame anything on. And, Disney has had a rough couple of years. We'll be talking about that. So it's not like he's this shining white knight that's going to come back. I think Iger's second shorter reign was far less. Well, I don't think it did as much for his reputation as his initial reign as CEO. We'll just put it that way. I think it started to tarnish.
Yeah. He's certainly not going to write any books about it, that's for sure.
Right.
So, yeah, he had it all planned so perfectly. He put the book out, he retired, the yacht. He had it all. And then,
don't forget, he was also eyeing a potential presidential run. That was also part of it.
I think he just rolled with that speculation and kind of played with it like a cat with a mouse. I don't think he ever really seriously considered anything like that. Otherwise, I think he would have already pulled that trigger. You do, huh?
No, I do. I think it was something he was considering. Absolutely.
Well, when people keep calling you the greatest CEO of all time,
sure,
for all industry, he's the greatest CEO of all time.
Well, I think it was also about fighting fire with fire. I think, you have Trump, who was not certainly not a politician, and I think they thought, well, wait a minute, if we want to take it to Trump, we've got to find someone who's also not a politician, because politicians at that time didn't seem to be very effective against Trump. That obviously all changed. I don't want to get political here, but point being, I think that he was seen as sort of the anti-Trump, like the more respectable outsider businessman that could go into politics, more like a Michael Bloomberg or something like that. So
right. Well, Bloomberg actually threw his hat in the ring, and Iger never did. So this is all just pure fantasy. Right. Anyway.
I think that also had something to do with it. But anyway, we're here to talk about Star Wars, and Jim, you mentioned all of the exciting things that are coming down the pike. Of course, Star Wars coming back to the big screen, and the the Maul Shadow Lord series. But this spring, I think we can go ahead and we can make this announcement. We will be seeing the return of Rebel Force Radio live in Cleveland to celebrate the return of Star Wars on the big screen. So yes, the Mandalorian and Grogu after show live May 22nd. That's a Saturday, May 22nd, the day after the film gets released, back in Cleveland, Ohio at Playhouse Square. So you may remember, in fact, I'm wearing the commemorative zip-up hoodie right now for the Skywalker Rises in Ohio event right here.
Wow.
So,
now that's a collector's item right there.
Yeah. Here, let me show you the back.
Oh, wow. There's a back to it and everything. Yeah. Yes, indeedy. That was a nice logo. We based it on the Ohio State logo. And it's pretty clever and a cool looking logo. So I have a patch of that somewhere around here. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting back to Cleveland. Haven't been there since Skywalker Rises in Ohio. And I'm really looking forward to getting back there for the Mandalorian and Grogu after show live. Oh, yeah. So we'll treat it just like any other episode of Rebel Force Radio. We'll break down the entire film, and then we'll open up the switchboard. But instead of taking calls, we'll just invite people to walk up to the microphone and throw in their opinions with a live studio audience. So
heck, we might even have Tyler there just to, pass the mic around.
Yeah, we'll have him in charge of all that. So he'll still be running the switchboard, but it's not going to, it's going to be a virtual switchboard.
Well,
Tyler
actually,
will be there.
yeah, right. A virtual switchboard, but also in real life with real human beings standing there. I don't know. It's we're turning it upside down a little bit, but it's going to have the same. For those listening to the podcast, it's just going to sound like Rebel Force Radio after show.
Yes, with hecklers.
Yeah,
for sure.
probably right.
So that's IRL if you want it.
Yeah.
And it will be upside down, and we're not talking about Stranger Things. The Stranger Things will be us, Rebel Force Radio, doing our thing at Playhouse Square. So we'll have ticket information and all of that stuff coming soon. But we just want you to save the date, Saturday, May 22nd. We want you to join us in downtown Cleveland. Just look for that giant chandelier. That's what I do when I'm stumbling around downtown Cleveland
trying
and I don't
to find
know where
Cleveland.
I'm at.
Hey, yeah. Also, some more details. There'll be. We're going to have an after show after the after show thing going on, and we're thinking there'll be an opportunity to maybe even go see the movie with Rebel Force Radio on Friday. So more details about all of that. So if you're going to be planning, you probably want to be there Friday night and Saturday night.
Yes, indeedy. So we'll be at the theater. Then the hecklers will follow us to Playhouse Square the next day. So, yeah, it'll be a multi-day event. And I'd actually like to sneak in 2 screenings of the movie before we hit the stage. Maybe we can make that happen.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. But we're looking forward to that. We're looking forward to hanging out with our listeners. I think a guy who is a Cleveland area RFR supporter is a longtime loyal listener, Ian Savage. Okay?
Yeah, Ian's
not
from
only
these parts.
Yeah, he is, isn't he? He's a Cleveland guy. He's a real nice guy. He's come out to our live shows at Playhouse Square in the past. He's brought his son out there, who was a little kid at first, and now I bet his son is prepping for college if he's not already there. Time flies. But Ian Savage, he's a great supporter of Rebel Force Radio, and he has a cool name, Savage. It's like very Star Wars, Savage Press, if you will. And Ian's
Macho
a cool
Man
guy.
Randy.
Well, I'll tell you, man, I want to thank him for sending this giant box.
Jeez,
which
look at
I have
this.
not opened yet. This is
Huge
stuff for
box.
you and me
Wow.
in this box. And from
I
what
have
I
to go
understand,
full screen on Jimmy Mac for this.
when I see the size of that box, that's a big box. So from what I understand, he's like you, Swank. He's a fellow 3D printer aficionado. So I've seen some of his handiwork, and I know he's become pretty proficient at it.
Yeah, I'm still very much a novice. I'm a beginner, but I'm getting there. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's nice to have a hobby that hasn't become a side job. You know, for a change, all my hobbies turn into like side hustles, but this is just for me.
Sometimes it's just great to find ways to make your hobby pay for itself.
Yeah, that's true.
I encourage that, actually. But I hear what you're saying, Swank. The pressure sure is off if there's not a podcast attached to it, let me just say. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've podcasted about everything I've had a personal interest in, it feels like, over these years. So I know there's no line between reality and podcast anymore. It's all just one big deal.
Hey, speaking of 3D printing, I'm noticing something new. I think I noticed this like 2 weeks ago. You got an illuminated Death Star in the background. Is that a 3D print?
Printed. No, that's a lamp.
Oh, that's a lamp. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lamp.
Because I've seen that. I've seen something similar to that has been 3D printed.
Yeah, that was a gift.
I like that. That's cool.
I've had it for several years, but I just moved it into the studio recently. So I'm glad the camera's picking it up.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I've noticed it for the last couple of shows. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
and the Star Wars Coca-Cola box.
I have to keep up with you and your decor over there. You got the neon lights flashing. Like it's a corner bar or something. Okay, I finally got it open. Ian sends a letter. Well, it looks like there's a lot of letter here. This is multiple pages.
He wrote us a whole book.
Okay. Yeah, the same box is ready for you. There's stands for action figures. And
really?
He said, just be gentle removing the packaging. And so he made all of these great action figure stands. So I'll pull some of them out and show you. But he sent me
look at that. Okay.
some of his work. This is some of his work. I'm showing Jason on the screen.
Helmet stands
right
included. Yes. Okay.
He even makes stands for the helmets. So I believe these are for 3 3/4-inch action figures.
I've actually been printing these myself. These are, I think, some of the best that are out there. And what's really cool about the design of the actual stand, as you say, is you can slide that foot in. You're not dealing with a peg in a hole. You slide the foot in, and then that allows you to do like running poses and more action. Shows more motion in the posing, which is great. And then those sit on top of these. Gosh, you can do up to like 6 sort of pillars at a time. And the extenders, so you can actually create exactly the size you need depending on the width of your shelf. Yeah.
Oh boy, this is very involved. So I'll tell you what, I'm gonna have to take my time with this. I want to be careful opening it, and I want to really go through the inventory here. So next week, for our all access viewers, I will show off Ian's work, and I'll have action figures displayed on it. Whatever it is that's in there. I'm not even sure what I'm getting myself into.
I think you're really going to like these. If they're what I think they are, you're going to really dig this, because it changes the game when it comes to displaying your action figures in a really cool way.
Oh, great. Because I've been having a lot of fun with the collection lately and trying to be as expansive as possible with my creativity as I try to set up these little displays. You know what really did it? What the real catalyst was for me to get really excited and creative with my collection again? It was the arrival of that darn Mos Eisley Cantina that I had buyer's remorse for forever.
Yeah. Are you still regretting the purchase?
No, because it fired up everything down here.
Right.
Like everything changed upon arrival of that.
Emotional roller coaster that was for you.
With action figures.
Right.
Yes,
it's a big boy purchase, though. I mean, that was not a cheap investment. But boy, and I think you were talking about how what really put you over the edge in terms of buying it was how it's modular, and you have a lot of options on how to set it up. It's not just one big piece.
Yeah, because you need like an entire coffee table dedicated to displaying this thing the way it's meant to be displayed. So when I started seeing them, I mean the representatives at Hasbro post up videos of the modular displays on YouTube, I said, hey, I can figure this out here, and I've done it. And I do have it set up in that way. So the way I have it set up on these shelves is Cantina bar top, because it's eye level with me. I like that. I like getting in there and hanging out with those Cantina sisters, which also was something that really reinforced my decision to purchase, because they're hot. And I have them hanging out on the bar, and like one kind of has the arm around the other one. And I'm like, I know this is weird because you're sisters, but I don't care. So
Jimmy Mack working out those 12-year-old fantasies there.
Hey, I've had those fantasies longer than 12 years, my friend.
No, I mean when you were 12.
I know what you mean. Just making a joke. So, I have it set up. So the bar is there, eye level, so I can get down in there, and get my woo-her on. Then I have this little shelf, which is all lined up with these speeder bikes. And then the next shelf is the cantina area where like Han Solo is kicking back in the alcove.
Yeah.
And they're all hanging. In the entryway, I have Luke like walking down the steps.
Oh, cool.
And then underneath that, I have like the outside of the cantina. So it's like Streets of Mos Eisley kind of thing. And I know that Hasbro has released a set called Streets of Mos Eisley that is compatible with the Mos Eisley Cantina. But I don't know. That thing has to get down to about $30 on Amazon before I'm going to pull the trigger on it. These prices are outrageous.
Yeah, they're crazy. I do have to ask, though. It's been a long time since it was released, but do you got a Ronto maybe tied outside?
I got a Ronto. You think I don't have a Ronto? Of course I have a Ronto. Man. And
one
he's
of the original
there.
Beasts.
Yeah, I even have little Jawas swinging off of him. Got little Jawas swinging off him.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yeah, I had one of my boys brought over a friend, and it was just so great to watch him go through the collection because he would do this thing that I love. Where he would walk by something and he'd go, oh, wait, and he'd go back to it and like kind of like, oh, yeah, there's that guy, there's this guy, there's that, yeah. I enjoy that. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun to show it all off. Very so cool. Those, collecting fun. So Ian Savage, thank you so much for the action figure stands and displays and stuff. Like I said, it's going to be a big surprise as I poke around in there and see what you got. And that's
really generous. That takes a box that size, just full of 3D prints and those stands, that's hours and hours and hours of printing. So, yeah, very generous. Thank you, Ian. That's really
isn't that what happens? The last 3 weekends, you've been sending us texts about what you're printing and what's going on. You're in this, like, corner of your basement that's... like, it's
like
my
little
behind the
laboratory
washing
now.
machine or something. Yeah, like you're like this mad scientist. I picture you down there with a white coat on, holding a clipboard and conducting crazy scientists or scientific
I'm going to crack the code,
like,
man. I mean, it's my goal is to be able to print my own figures, and I'm getting there. And there's a lot of settings and things, and I mean, but I'm enjoying the process of improving, just about every print that I do and picking my projects and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It really is. Just what I needed, another hobby. That's what my wife said.
Yeah, sure. Hey, it keeps you out of her hair.
That's right.
So she must appreciate that.
Right.
And, move over Oscar Isaac.
That middle-aged guys can do as a hobby. So.
Yeah, really. You could... Well, you do golf.
I do golf, but that's...
And you fish.
I do.
Yeah.
I was thinking about other things, but we won't go there. What we'll do is... I think what we'll do is we'll go to listener feedback.
You must contact me.
Play back the entire message.
What message?
Message after the message.
The Emperor commands you to make contact with him. It's a trick. Send no reply.
Hey, Jason and Jimmy. It's Tanner from Denver. Just listening to the latest flagship episode and got to the part where you're talking about Maul's name. This is actually something I've thought quite a bit about in the past, and the way that I kind of have rationalized it, and I'm not too big into the Star Wars books. I've only read a handful. I've read the original Zahn trilogy and Darth Plagueis, but in Darth Plagueis, Maul is pretty much gifted to Palpatine when he was a baby. So if we're going off of that, which to me, up until anything shoves it out the door, that's going to be canon for me. I think that Maul never really had a name. I think Palpatine originally, because he was raising him to be his apprentice, I think he gave him the only name that he had, which was related to the Darth, and I don't think that he gave him a real name intentionally to get that separation, to make Maul truly a monster and remove any sort of humanity. Anyways, love the show. You guys have a great day and can't wait for the after shows.
Okay. All right. So there never was anything other than Darth Maul. That's the only name he ever had. He drops the Darth and just goes by Maul. But it does feel like it's a half a name, at least in terms of Star Wars. I mean, I find myself just saying, oh, the Darth Maul show. Hey, did you see the trailer for the Darth Maul show?
Yeah.
Is that not canonical
Maul
anymore? Is that incorrect? Will I have people, I have the Sheev Palpatine Brigade. Will they be correcting me when I say the Darth Maul show? You mean the Maul show? Is really not Darth, you know.
Some people were saying, well, Jimmy Mac, you guys never complained about just referring to the character as Vader. You say Vader all the time. Vader, Vader, Vader. Why? What's the difference? Well, I'll tell you what the difference is. Vader has a rhythm. Vader has a beat. It's 2 syllables. Dot, dot. Maul is just Maul. It almost feels like you're clearing your throat. It doesn't feel like you're saying anything. There's no rhythm to Maul. When you have Darth Maul, then you got your beat going again. Dun, 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 dun. Darth Maul, Darth Maul, Darth Maul. It's like your heartbeat, you know? Vader, Vader, boom, 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 boom. That's my heart talking to you. And so, just Maul, like I said, it feels more like there's like a little chicken bone caught in your throat, and you're trying to Maul, trying to Maul, get rid of it.
Yeah.
So that's where I come from on that. Now, I mean, he brings up some good points, and another point that some people brought up to me was there is a back and forth dialogue between Ezra and Old Master in Star Wars Rebels, where Maul seems to indicate that he knew he once had a name, but he couldn't recall what it was. All right.
Well, you just forgot the Darth part?
I think he meant like before he was known as Darth Maul.
Before he was Darth Maul, he had a name. Okay.
He must have said it during those Malachor episodes, or when Maul and Ezra sat down and they melded the Sith and Jedi holocrons together. Yeah. Like Ezra's eyes turned into hyperspace or something. I can't remember what. Ezra's eyes did turn into hyperspace a few times.
Yes, they did.
That's a skill. That's a skill that few Jedi had. But I didn't go back and look for that episode again, as I said. But I think it probably happened in those Malachor episodes, and it might be worth researching that. But, just calling him just Maul it's not as much fun. There's no rhythm to it. There's no heartbeat.
Yeah, I think too, like with Vader, we say Vader just for the purpose of shorthand. And that's how it's used in the films as a shorthand. Whereas Maul, there seems to be like an implication that there's some sort of story or narrative reason for the Darth to have disappeared. Like it's a title he no longer has. So like he's, been disbarred, or he can't practice medicine anymore. So he's no longer Dr. Maul. He's just Maul. So there seems to be something along those lines. Whereas with Vader, it was almost like a nickname, or not a nickname, but a shortened version. But nonetheless, Darth Maul or Maul, I'm looking forward to it. And it'll be great to be doing these after shows again, and fresh Star Wars each and every week, 2 episodes. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a busy 5 weeks.
It sure will be. And I've been missing Star Wars animation. These multi-year gaps between animated shows. I don't know. They need to find a better rhythm. So
I think in general, man, the stream... This just came up in my house the other day. My daughter's been watching Friends. That's like... be like us, when we were growing up watching, I don't know, Leave It to Beaver or something like that, when you look at the time difference. But she's been watching Friends, and she got to the point where... the famous moment where Ross and Rachel finally get together at the coffee shop, and they cut, and my wife was saying, can you imagine what it was like for us? We had to wait all summer to find out what happened. And I'm thinking to myself, one summer, my God, we wait 3 years between seasons of TV shows now. That's the norm. Like I think it's far worse now. You're so right. I mean, the cadence between seasons is excruciating. And I don't know if it's because they've got big stars in television now and they're involved in other projects. But my God, I'll take a summer any day of the week now compared to what we have.
Yeah.
I blame Sopranos. Sopranos was the first show to pull that. Where you had to wait like almost 2 years, I think, between seasons because contract disputes and all that stuff.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I mean, that's when you really started to notice these long pauses between seasons. And it all started with Sopranos. So, beggars can't be choosers, though. We're going to get 10 episodes of Darth Maul in 5 weeks. That'll be pretty intense. I'm looking forward to that. 2 episodes a week to break down on the after show. And that's going to be a lot of fun. Coming off of 3 hour-long episodes of Andor coming at us every week last April. This is going to be a walk in the park. Are you kidding me? Come on, bring it on. Bring it on. But it has been a while since we had opportunities to do after shows. And I miss those opportunities. And so does our RSS feed. RSS feed likes to be fed. And, the more podcasts we can dump in there, the better it is. And we know Star Wars is hitting on all cylinders when RFR is coming at you more than once a week. So that's something to really look forward to. I know I do. And then we get in the middle of doing it, and I'm like, oh, my God, I'm exhausted. When is this going to... No, I don't. Because I look so forward to having those episodes drop every week. Well, I really start to look forward to the new episodes. I'll be like, only 2.5 more days until we get the next part of the whatever series is on.
Yeah, and I love the whole process. Like, I love the night that the episodes drop and our Jedi Council is like, all right, I'm starting mine. FJ's, already watched the whole episode or half the episode. And then I start and you start. And Kyle's like, I'm going to have to watch it tomorrow. He's got little kids, it's totally understandable.
Rebel Force Radio.
Well, speaking of hungry RSS feeds, there's no starvation going on if you have your RSS feed pointed towards Rebel Force Radio on Patreon.
That's right. Patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio is the place you want to go. Support Rebel Force Radio and get bonus podcasts, full show video, ad-free early bird releases of the weekly RFR, and access to the greatest community of Star Wars fans you can find anywhere on the internet. Everyone's so supportive over there. And you don't really ever see any shaming, Sometimes they shame me, but that's okay because I'm popping off into the microphone every week. But there is an air of respect that you find among the community of Rebel Force Radio supporters at Patreon that you don't typically find in other Star Wars forums throughout the internet. And it's not like we moderate it to be that way or anything. It's really the Wild West. Anything could happen there, but it just naturally is a cool environment to discuss the wars. And this week on Patreon, we did drop the latest edition of RFR Q&A, KOTOR and Collecting, ladies and gentlemen. And it's myself and Eric, and we discuss Star Wars collecting, the highs and the lows, Swank. There's even a moment.
Plenty of both.
Yeah. Well, there's a moment where, we do discuss collector's regret or collector's guilt when we look at the stuff and we think, boy, what could have I done with all the money I spent on these little plastic men's that I have all over the place,
all the places in the world you could have traveled to, the improvements you could have made to your home, the cars that you could have driven in and owned. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, que sera, sera, what are you going to
We all make our choices in life, right? We all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we landed on the positivity of having a direct connection to something that brought us a lot of joy in childhood, in our youth, and being able to maintain that youthful energy as adults and taking that youthful energy and making it work for us by creating things. And Eric's a creator. He's got a workshop in his garage where he makes kick-ass custom action figures and does all kind of cool stuff in there. And me, I make this podcast every week. So, that's some positive, creative energy, and it all flows from Star Wars. So at the end of the day, as long as it's positive and very healthy, it's really good for you. Sometimes I look at the money I could have spent it on pizza and beer. What do you want? It's better off in action figures, And it's something that brings a lot of people joy. So I was just talking about that kid who was down in my collection, and he was stopping, going, "Oh my God, what's that?" And it was, I enjoy sharing it, and I think a lot of collectors at the end of the day, that's where they get the most joy. It's not all about how much of this stuff can I acquire. It's about how can I share it, and how can I inspire through it, and how can I be creative and share that creative energy with people. So that's at least where I come from as a collector, and everyone has their own trip, so I'm just telling you where I'm coming from. And something, having his own trip, something that Eric really is into is KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic. And he breaks down the entire story as told in video games and books. He even delves into comic books a little bit, and he just has this great recall as he breaks down the whole story of KOTOR. So if you're like me and you never made it through the entire thing, and you only have had sort of this working knowledge of the exploits of guys like Darth Revan, etc., then this is a cool listen, because Eric just takes over, man, and he puts the pedal to the metal, and it's a rapid fire breakdown. I really enjoyed it. So that's what's going on over at RFR on Patreon this week. And plus we're cross-posting all of the video highlights we've been posting to YouTube lately, including things like the full Katie Sackhoff interview and other interviews. Todd Fisher, Carrie Fisher's
that's a great
brother.
One. I love that. Yeah. Classic.
I really enjoyed that interview so much because it really made me feel closer to Carrie Fisher than I ever did before, just by hearing Todd with his stories. He's a very close confidant of Carrie's, and they certainly shared a lot of life experiences together. And Todd had the gift of gab going that day, my friend, and we weren't going to stop him from telling story after story about growing up with Princess Leia. So that's Todd Fisher. You can see all of that stuff on our YouTube channel. You don't have to support Patreon, but we cross-post everything to the Patreon page. It's really the ultimate hub for staying in touch with all things Rebel Force Radio 24/7. So that's patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. Go there, support Rebel Force Radio, and contribute to the health and growth of your favorite Star Wars podcast. That's patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news.
Come closer, I have good news.
All right, here we go. The big news. By unanimous vote, Josh D'Amaro, a Disney veteran, been there 30 years, is taking over as the new CEO, formerly the head of the theme parks division. But that is not all. At the same time, Dana Walden, currently co-chair of the entertainment division, overseeing TV and streaming, she is ascending to the role of president and chief creative officer. And her role will be about adding oversight of the film business to her purview. Now, Jim, so much of the attention has been on tomorrow, but I think the big story for us as Star Wars fans is Dana Walden. That, to me, is when I heard about that and what her role is currently and what it's set to be in March when they take over. March 18th is the date. All the pieces started to fall into place, and it became apparent why they felt that they could elevate Dave Filoni. I mean, nothing against Dave, but Dave's not necessarily a president of a film studio kind of guy, whereas Kathleen Kennedy and her pedigree and her history, yes, she absolutely was on paper a good pick. I mean, George Lucas himself picked her. But they can take that chance on Filoni because now there's Dana Walden, who is reporting directly to the CEO. She's got his ear, and she is going to have her hands in Pixar, in Marvel, in Star Wars, as well as, Disney Animation Studios and all of that. So I think the headline for Star Wars fans is Dana Walden, not Tomorrow. Tomorrow is there to make the shareholders and the board feel comfortable. He's the nuts and bolts. He's the day-to-day guy. He's going to get the company back on track. And by back on track, I mean getting people back to those parks, which they haven't been lately. We all know that's been news that is certainly no surprise to anybody that they're having a challenges at the parks. The prices are skyrocketing, attendance is down, and that is Disney's most consistent revenue driver. Well over film and television. It is the parks. And so Iger, who is more of an entertainment guy or fancied himself a creative, took his eyes off the prize when it came to the parks. They got Tomorrow who's going to be doing that. And just to make sure that these studio heads like Feige and Filoni don't get too carried away and too insular, they got Dana Walden that's going to make sure that the alignment across all these divisions happens, from the merchandising to the streaming to the film. All of it's going to align, and then there's going to be Tomorrow who's going to make sure that all of these ideas, all these stories somehow lead to people buying tickets to the parks.
Yeah, well, he's a park guy. Walden came over with the 20th Century Fox acquisition. Most people got fired. She stuck around. So she knows how to negotiate with other managers and other egos. This is clear. And the expectation is, according to Variety, that Walden will be the main decision maker on the content Disney produces. So this is definitely a 1-2 punch, much like Filoni is going to be in charge of the content that Lucasfilm produces and has to get green lit by then Dana Walden. That's how it's going to work. Before they went up to Iger,
right,
and Alan Bergman. Bergman, who remains with the company, who knows what his role is going to be. He's probably working on a big fat golden parachute right now, so he can jump out of the office window and never have to work a day again for the rest of his life. So I don't feel bad for him, but it does seem like he's the odd man out here.
Yeah, I mean, Walden, this is all about consolidation, streamlining, efficiency. So you're not going to have Filoni running to the CEO. Walden's there, and this to me is a symbol that they understand that there is a big need for strong creative direction, because I think Lucasfilm has been left to their own devices. It's been hit or miss. Marvel is not doing great. There's some doubts about the new Avengers movie that's coming out. And I know it's popular to talk, and before you even see the movie and run it down. And there's the camp that wants Disney to fail. I'm not in that camp. I want Disney to be strong. I want Star Wars to be strong. I want Marvel to be strong. I want all of these brands and these franchises to be strong, because a rising tide lifts all boats. So I'm all for it. But you can't read this and not see the writing in between the lines, which is this is about more oversight from the very top. This is not about less oversight and less creative control. It's about more creative control. It's just not going to be the CEO doing it. It's going to be Walden as the what's her title here?
President
Shoot, I just
and
had it.
content.
Yeah, president. And chief creative officer. Yeah,
chief creative officer. Yeah. Now, Bob Iger, as a Disney executive, the man on top, he would listen to what focus groups would tell him and what social media reaction was like. And he would demand changes in productions. He would give up these editing notes. Mm-hmm. And it's just such a shame that Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger are leaving at the same time, because we can never see how one operates Star Wars without the other. Right. And it would have been really interesting to see if Iger stepped down and Kathy stuck around, if the quality of Star Wars changed at all. I think there's going to be some noticeable changes with all of these changes happening within the corporate stratosphere surrounding it all. And it's just, it seems like this has been working or being worked on for a very long time. I hope a lot of seeds have already been planted. Yeah. And there's a certain direction in which things will be heading in for not only Star Wars, but for all the properties, including Marvel, that are over there at Disney. So we shall see.
Yeah, a little background on Walden here. So she's got more than 30 years in the business. 25 of that was spent at 21st Century Fox, where she eventually became chairman and CEO of Fox Television Group, where she oversaw the networks and the studios, including Fox Broadcasting Company and 20th Century Fox Television, driving major hits and awards. I mean, you know, Fox has had its fair share of hit television shows. You know, I remember when it debuted as the fourth network. What? We've got 4 channels now? It always just seemed to be on the bleeding edge. You look at the early days of Married with Children and X-Files and some of these shows that would have never, ever made it on the other networks. There was an edge to Fox. Fox shows on Fox really meant something. And so coming, you know, through those, through the ranks there at Fox, I think speaks pretty highly. But she's only been at Disney since 2019. And here she finds herself, you know, in the number 2 role, just underneath the CEO. But her time at Disney was definitely a highlight. She brought home a record number of Emmy nominations. And when she was overseeing things like all of the original Disney content for like Disney Plus, Hulu, ABC, FX, National Geographic, she had nothing to do with any of the big franchises. No Pixar, no Marvel, no Star Wars, none of that. But now she's going to oversee all of that. And I think they're getting back to basics where it's like, look, we bought these properties to do several things, but primarily it was to drive attendance to our parks, to sell lots of merchandise, and get butts in seats when we release these things to the theaters. And Iger really went all in on the streaming. And I mean, look, the streaming is here to stay. The streaming isn't going to go anywhere, but it's all about what's the focus going to be. And I think the focus is going to be a lot less on streaming and a lot more on the parks, a lot more on big films, big tentpole films coming to the theaters.
I have a lot of questions about Dana and what she even knows about Star Wars, because Iger fancied himself as a creative. And I think Iger dove into Star Wars a great deal, at least the sequel trilogy. Of course, he has knowledge of the originals and the prequels and stuff, but I don't think Iger was keen on the prequels at all. I think some other Disney executives shared that sentiment because they buried the prequels for the longest time. I used to say Disney had prequelitis, and I still stand by that because the Clone Wars was immediately canceled, and any exposure of prequel era characters, plots, or situations slowly disappeared, and did so for a long time until the Save the Clone Wars campaign finally reached a crescendo, and Disney realized that there was cash in Ahsoka, and let's get that Clone Wars going again. Plus, Dave Filoni rose in stature over there, too. And he developed quite a bit of clout and had some unfinished business with the Clone Wars that he wanted to wrap up. So, I mean, Dave Filoni definitely is the guiding force in all of that. And you can see he's doing everything he can to keep Clone Wars era animation style part of the platform. And we've seen that with Bad Batch, and now we're seeing it again with the Darth Maul show. Yeah, that's right. I said Darth Maul show. It's got that heartbeat, that rhythm. I like it. I hope she and Filoni get along well. I hope she educates herself on Star Wars or brings in a Star Wars education. She is coming from 20th Century Fox, and we know the
original
Fox lot.
Distributors,
Yeah,
of Star
we
Wars.
know there's a Star Wars presence on the Fox lot. At least there was. They had that entire sound stage that was painted with a huge Star Wars mural. I think it was from Empire Strikes Back. I don't remember. But I don't know if that still exists, because I'm going back easily 20 years ago. I remember Hayden Christensen being announced as Anakin Skywalker, and the news crews who were out there for the junket shot Hayden and asked him interview questions outside the soundstage on the Fox lot in Hollywood. There's this giant Empire Strikes Back mural painted on the wall. Do you recall this?
No, I'm not actually.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, whatever.
Well, here's what I find kind of interesting is that this is sort of imitating the leadership structure, this sort of two-pronged or two-pillar structure that we saw, Filoni and Lin-Wen Brennan have, where Filoni's the creative guy and Lin-Wen Brennan is the sort of the day-to-day business arm of things. But it's sort of flipped now. You've got with Damaro, he's the business guy, and you have Dana, who's the head of creative. But this sort of two-pillar structure seems to be a theme here with the top of Disney and Disney-owned companies.
Yeah, it seems to be going on in other places like DC, for example, where you have James Gunn handling the creative end and Peter Safran handling the business end. And I mean, I don't know if it's exactly the same type of distribution of duties and responsibilities, but it does seem to be kind of in the forefront right now, where you don't have just a single studio head. You have a couple of them.
Yeah.
A guy and a girl a lot of times. So it's pretty interesting. And we'll see how that all works out. And at least now we know who to blame. As fans, we have to have, certain individuals on our radar. And welcome to the team or the club, Dana.
Yeah.
Because, you and Filoni are definitely going to take the wrath of Star Wars fans. And RFR will be right along with those fans, right alongside them, at the forefront of fandom.
Yeah. We'll keep a close eye on it, and we'll be bringing you all the details as they unfold. It's going to be a heck of a year, 2026. And, of course, like I keep saying, it's the prequel year to the big 50th anniversary, and they don't want to mess up the 50th anniversary of Star Wars. And so new leadership, new era, the next 50 years of the galaxy far, far away.
That's right.
Speaking of Star Wars returning back to the theaters in the future, we've got word that the Super Bowl is going to bring a brand new trailer for The Mandalorian and Grogu. So that'll be interesting. It's always exciting, the Super Bowl with all the new ads, and I've already seen that Jurassic Park ad that's making the rounds. That's pretty cool.
All right, listen. I refuse to watch the Super Bowl ads until the Super Bowl itself, okay? So, spoiler alert, I don't want to know anything about it. I've had to tell this to people because now everyone's watching the commercials before they're on. So I'm not even going to go to a party because people are going to be like, oh, here's the one where. No, I don't want that. I want to be in the moment. Okay? You're not supposed to know this stuff.
You're not supposed to know what commercials are going to play during the Super Bowl? You want to be surprised?
That's half the show. That's half. You think I care about Seattle and New England? No, I don't care about either team. But I've watched every playoff game, so I mean, I actually do have kind of a vested interest in the game, of course. But now I need the commercials and halftime and all of that stuff, and the pregame, everything. You have to have it all. So.
All right, so here's the moment of truth, okay? What if the Mando and Grogu trailer, what if it shows up online before it debuts on the Super Bowl? What are you going to do, Jimmy Mack? Are you going to violate your rule about no spoilers of the Super Bowl commercials and wait, or are you going to dive in as soon as that thing hits?
Okay. We have the scales of justice in front of us. On one scale is Star Wars. On the other scale is Super Bowl 60. Okay? Whoa, Star Wars definitely takes top priority over the Super Bowl. And I will definitely watch the trailer. Why? Is it out there now?
No. But I just remember it's happened before where it drops on YouTube before you end up seeing it during the game. That's happened before. So, but
no, I'll definitely watch it if it's out there before the game. Definitely. Yeah. And then I'll look forward to seeing it again during the game.
In game, yeah.
Yeah, okay. But I don't want to spoil the other commercials. Now, as far as the trailer itself, we need to see some big bang of an exciting montage of events. It can't be the ad footage again. We've seen it many times. Yeah. We need to see something that says, hey, this isn't just an elongated version of one of the streaming series episodes. Because I think that's been the general vibe among people who have seen the previously released footage. It doesn't feel any different than just a regular episode of The Mandalorian. What's going to really win people over and say, hey, this is going to be a big deal? Maybe putting a hut on the screen. Well, they've done that already because they showed off.
We've seen him. He's throwing his arms up, he's in that gladiator
the muscular.
Pose.
The gladiator
I just think it's a tall order. I mean, I think if the people that were working on this movie were sitting here talking to us right now, they'd be saying, what are you talking about, Jimmy Mack? We showed these AT-ATs. These huge AT-ATs are falling off cliffs. There's explosions, and Mando is, flying through the sky with Grogu. What do you want from us? Because I think these things have sort of averaged. TV is caught up with Hollywood in a way, or film releases in such a way that I think it's getting harder and harder and harder to impress us. So I'm sympathetic to these creatives, because I don't know. I think that if they really wanted to get people talking, is they would have to reveal some sort of important character that's returning back to Star Wars or something. If they have any surprises in this film, I think they got to give us a little tease in the trailer. I don't think big effect shots in battles are going to do it. I think people want to see something surprising and comforting and Star Wars.
Something big and expansive makes you feel like it's epic. Again, bigger than just another episode of The Mandalorian. I don't know. I was pretty impressed with the footage that I've seen so far. So
I know I was too.
I'm really not speaking for myself. I'm just speaking to some general reaction I've observed from others. But the AT-AT falling off the cliff is pretty damn cool. And I'll be there watching it in IMAX, hopefully. Yeah. We got to have an IMAX theater.
I think they could just get away with releasing what they showed at Star Wars Celebration. It was much more effective, even in its shoddy condition that we saw bootlegged from somebody that was sitting there in the theater. But it was far more, I think, exciting than the official trailer they released.
Yeah, I agree. I would love to see that in a much more. Yeah, it was considerably better and had more of an epic feel. But I don't know. A character reveal, that's what you're saying?
That's what I think. Like let's say Boba Fett's going to show up in it. You know, you do that thing where at the very end, you think the spot's, you know, the TV spot's about to end, the trailer's going to end, and then they cut, and there's, you know, Tim Morrison, you know, as Boba with Fennec Shand or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. It wouldn't be that exciting for general fans, but for fans of Mandalorian and it would be good. Or, you know, God, Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
If he's
Han Solo.
Or Han's. Oh, yeah. There's that rumor. Remember that the trio is going to be in this film. But we'll see.
That'll get butts in seats.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Because it's going to be deep faked or whatever.
Right.
And there might be some pushback against that. There's always pushback. Like, people got angry about the volume. I still think the volume is brilliant. You know, the stagecraft, the stage where they have the projections behind the actors. I think it's brilliant. Mm-hmm. People are all angry about it, you know. It's like, I don't know. Once they know about it, then the magic gets lost. And
well, can you imagine people being angry about blue screen? Oh, man. You know, back in the day, it's all blue screen.
I mean, that's what we grew up with.
Right.
And then George went crazy with it in the prequel era. Yeah, virtual sets.
Yeah.
You know how much money I'm saving? You know. yeah.
Until they cast Liam Neeson. Remember, Liam Neeson was too tall, so he had to build some, increase the height of those sets.
Those half sets.
Yeah.
Surrounded by green screen. And then there's just like a pillar, right in the middle there. And, you know,
I always wonder, why do they have to have that pillar? Why can't that just be CGI too? It's always strange. It's just like these objects, you know, that.
Well, maybe it's just a guide, you know. Okay, start here with the illustrations, you know. Here's a pillar. Work off of that. We've made it so easy for you guys.
Right, yeah.
You know?
George is probably thinking, like, here's whiny actors. You know, why they don't have any practical sets? Give them a pillar. Look at. You know, I think they had like tennis balls and stuff that they had to look at to get the eye lines right. Yeah. Exactly. You can imagine how annoyed George was anytime like Ewan McGregor made a comment about how difficult it was.
Yeah.
You know, interacting with green fabric.
Yeah. And if there was a thought bubble over George's head, it would just be stacks of cash with wings flying away. For every quip Ewan is making. Yeah, and they're all flying away from the George Lucas bank account. Yeah. You know, he had that like Francis Ford, where it was coming right out of their pockets. And most filmmakers have studios funding everything or producers raising funds. But George was paying for it out of his bank account. And Coppola did the same thing. Coppola, you know, how many times has that guy almost lost his house? You know, he's going through it right now.
He is.
Because
he's selling
of
off his watch collection.
Yeah. Megaopolis.
Right.
Which I can't see because it's not streaming anywhere. I think I can buy a disc or something. I don't know.
Did it even come out in the theaters? Did he put it?
Oh, yeah.
It came out in the theaters. It just bombed.
It didn't drive box office numbers at all.
Yeah.
And it's kind of got tomatoes or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, once you get the tomatoes.
He's going to find himself back in that position when he had to do The Godfather.
Yeah.
He had to make, you know. So.
Ooh, maybe we'll get a Godfather 4. Pacino's still around.
Yeah. Andy Garcia.
Andy Garcia, I
gotta
guess.
bring him in, you know, because Pacino's dead, and then they really made it official when they renamed the film, you know, The Godfather Coda, and they shortened it up a little bit. So, there was rumor probably 15 years ago that there was going to be a a Godfather 4 and get Garcia back in there. And but now with like the deep fake stuff, man, you could do. Think of what you could do with the flashbacks. You could get Brando back. You could get a young Tom Hagen back. You get Jimmy Caan back. It could be pretty cool. All right. Also in the might have been, could have been camp, we've got some news about Taika Waititi talking about his Star Wars movie. Man, oh man, has this thing had a spotty history. And as we've said here, Jim, on the program before, I really feel like this was a decision that was made because Taika was just one of the hottest names at the time. And now he's still attached to this thing. I don't think it's ever going to happen, especially with all these leadership changes. I mean, all these deals that Kathleen Kennedy made, are they still good? Are they still valid?
Well, it depends on how far in the development some of this stuff is and whether or not the new management is turned on by any of it. I mean, really, that is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And also, what has Disney corporate given the green light to? It seems like they have a lot of things in the hopper, but what has been given the green light? This Taika Waititi film? I would guess they speak so publicly about it. Yes, Kathleen Kennedy announced it at the shareholders whoop-de-doo back in 2020.
Yeah.
Remember?
There was a logo and everything. It had that like weird like Star Wars BC kind of look.
Yes.
And I mean BC like the old comic strip. I don't mean like, the James Mangold history of the Jedi. I mean, like it had this weird comic booky look. And this is this is probably the Star Wars comedy that they've been threatening to make for all these years. So
yeah, well, Star Wars meets the Flintstones or something wacky that Taika came up with.
Yeah,
it's very Flintstones inspired. Kathleen Kennedy said his script was hilarious. And that doesn't, I don't want it hilarious. I want to hear his script was epic, breathtaking. It takes the franchise in a new direction for a new generation, but also pays great tributes to the core of Star Wars and what really makes it all tick. George Lucas has signed off on it himself. All right, that's too much. I'm wishing for too much. But in the case of Taika, he had a script that he co-wrote with a writer named Christy Wilson Cairns, or Cairns, whatever. But this writer wrote the movie 1917, so World War I film. And there's only been slight updates since it was announced back in December 2020 by Kathy Kennedy. So it's a fish. But Waititi was at the Sundance Film Festival recently, and he spoke to Variety at the premiere of Fing, F-I-N-G, exclamation point, Fing! So when you say it, you really have to say it. Fing! Thank God we're not in the same room, Swank, because my computer monitor screen is now covered with spittle.
Yeah, I haven't caught Fing or even heard of Fing.
Right, this is the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what Taika was there for, but he did talk to Variety about what he has in store for Star Wars fans and revealed a little bit of information about his ever-in-development Star Wars script, the script that wouldn't die.
I'm just trying to sort of go back and harness a little more of the fun, from the original films, which is what I remember. The stakes were very high, and there were serious things going on, but also there was a lot of fun to be had in those films, and so that's what I was trying to bring back.
Are you interested in using the characters that exist before? Or are you really interested in creating new characters?
I was trying to just work in a world where it felt a little bit separate to that, because they've got so many things going on which are still within that space, and I just feel like, for me to do something there, it would need to be a little different and a little bit more its own thing.
Based off of what he was saying, I believe he would stay away from existing canon.
Yeah.
And try to create something totally within its own bubble in the Star Wars universe. And I could just hear, well, this is just a Taika Waititi movie with a Star Wars skin on it. But I think that was really kind of the driving force of what Kathleen Kennedy was doing all of these years at Lucasfilm with her, no, make it a you movie. This is a great Star Wars script. Now make it a you script. And it's like, what is she teaching? A college film course here? What's going on? This is Star Wars. We look at this as modern mythology. It needs to be treated in those regards.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to a time when Star Wars isn't just being passed around like some piece of meat at a party. This gangbang that's been going on by all these creatives and stars. Like, I'm tired of hearing a James Mangold talk or a Taika Waititi talk. I want to get back to the day where it's the studio, it's Lucasfilm, it's Filoni, it's people like that talking about these Star Wars movies instead of running around and chasing these creatives down at these parties and these premieres to hope that you can get some little drip drab of information about Star Wars. I don't want to hear this guy in between sips of his cocktail talking about my franchise like that. I'm just so tired of it. Can we get some adults in the room, someone serious, instead of treating this like it's just anyone's dog for a bone? God.
But if this doesn't happen, then we don't get the sound bites. And our
No. I'm not saying we shouldn't cover it. No, don't get me wrong. I'm just, you know what I'm saying?
I know what you mean, dude.
It's just being, I don't want to say what I'm really thinking right now, but the way it's just being passed around, Kathleen Kennedy is just hoard Star Wars out to all these creatives that want to just put their spin on it instead of actually creating a cohesive, coherent universe. And I hope to God this is one of the things that Dana Walden is going to put an end to.
Yeah. No more passing Star Wars around like a bunch of hippies passing a joint around in a parking lot. Now, come on.
I've got something
Let's bust
far
this
more
party
graphic in mind than tossing around a little harmless doobie. You know, these Hollywood types,
All right.
what they like to pass around at these parties.
Uh-oh.
What? Moving on.
Speaking of Hollywood types.
What, did someone say Kevin Feige?
I think so. Kevin Feige. Now, this is just kind of an interesting aside because we know that his project had been DOA for a long time. But we got some info that might be news to you because it was news to me. And I haven't really seen this being reported anywhere or anything. But just some Kevin Feige information that we learned about. First of all, let me just set up what's going on with the whole Feige project. It was way back in September 2019 when in Variety, Disney Studios co-chairman and chief creative officer Alan Horn announced that Kevin Feige was going to be working on a Star Wars film. He said, with the close of the Skywalker saga, Kathy is pursuing a new era in Star Wars storytelling, and knowing what a diehard fan Kevin is, it made sense for these two extraordinary producers to work on a Star Wars film together. Okay, so that was the big announcement. And then shortly after that, we learned that writer Michael Waldron, who wrote The Loki Show for Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's all coming back to me now.
Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. He wrote that. So he's coming in with some cred. And he was brought on to write the script. And it was supposed to be a fresh story, not a sequel. Kind of similar in vein to what we've been hearing about the Sean Levy film. Standalone, fresh story, fresh start, all of this stuff. But what we learned was that Kevin Feige had pitched movies based around the Yuuzhan Vong. Remember that?
Oh,
Yuuzhan Vong?
I sure do.
So they were the species that came from another galaxy, and they fought with the Jedi, and they were impervious to the Force.
Yeah,
and
they sort of replaced the Empire as the big bads in the Star Wars universe in that post Return of the Jedi era of the EU.
They hated technology. I have a Yuzhan Vong action figure.
Whoa, look at this.
Right here. Look, I have
perfect.
one,
oh, yeah, right. They had the, the horns coming out of their bodies, or they had the armor, and
they were so wicked.
Yeah.
I enjoyed them. Some people did not, but I thought they were kind of cool.
I think they're great for comic book stories because they're very comic booky looking.
Yeah, there was a Dark Horse comic called Invasion that was about the Yuzhan Vong, and I kind of enjoyed that. But yeah, you couldn't really use the Force on them. They were big, they were strong, they mutilated their faces, and they tattooed themselves all over. They had horns, they just despised technology. That was their whole religion was repulsed by technology, and they had all of these natural, this thing was a snake that he could turn into a staff.
That's right. Everything was natural. Right.
Yeah.
The natural universe. Right. I think they did still fly around in starships, but but
the starships,
technology.
I think the starships were living creatures.
Ooh, like the space whales. Maybe they hitched a ride on those.
I believe they were mutant creations from another galaxy. These guys were badass. And so it was the basis of the new Jedi Order series of books. It's like 20 book series. And I thought they were kind of cool. I know some fans did not like them because I think they just felt like after 10 books, hey, we've had enough of these Yuzhan Vong. It's like, oh, we're only halfway there. What's going on here? And so I think they just dragged it out a little bit too long.
Yeah, remember those days at Star Wars Celebration? They would introduce the new book series, and they're like, this will take us through the next 5 years. There will be 32 books, also some young adult titles in between. There'll be, it was very ambitious, those big publishing arcs that they used to do.
They weren't too bad with the young adult novels back then, but nowadays they abuse the hell out of that. Young adult, I mean, everything they do is young adult novel, if you ask me. Everything. But we'll save that for another show. Kevin Feige apparently was pitching a movie about the Yuzhan Vong. And apparently Kathleen Kennedy said yes and actually commissioned the script. So it would have been the script by Michael Waldron. Apparently, Feige wasn't too excited by the script. And also, was too busy with Marvel.
Well,
so
what did he think? He was going to take a break from Marvel to do Star Wars? He's been busy with Marvel for the past, couple decades.
It seems like the bottom line is this was more of a professional courtesy to try to develop something between Kennedy and Feige for Star Wars, like Disney corporate synergy at work here. And it just didn't pan out. And also, I think Kathy Kennedy felt a little burnt by the announcement that Alan Horn made to Variety. I think he was going around Kathleen Kennedy and trying to make something happen for Star Wars. Like, Alan Horn saw this opening. Hey, it's the end of the Skywalker saga. Mm-hmm. Something new must happen with Star Wars right away. Well, we have a guy in-house in Kevin Feige who's got a great track record with these type of films. Let's insert him into Star Wars. He was just telling me the other day in the commissary that he loves Star Wars.
It's so funny. That's the way these things went down. I mean, there's people that have suggested that, James Mangold was just grabbed from the back room where they were talking because he was there promoting the Indiana Jones film. right at Star Wars Celebration, Mangold. And so they just grabbed him and say, well, come out on stage and talk. You and I talked about Star Wars once. You said you'd like to do it. So it was just so ad hoc and it was just all BS. So much of this has just been BS. Now, in the case of the Feige, there's actually a script that was developed, but I don't know that anybody believed when his name was being dropped, and we all knew what his role was at Marvel, that anyone was seriously thinking that there was going to be a Kevin Feige Star Wars movie. I don't care how serious they seemed to be behind the scenes. I think we all just knew common sense-wise that it just wasn't going to work.
Well, again, I think it was doomed from the beginning because I think Alan Horn went around Kathleen Kennedy and announced it when it should have been Kathy Kennedy announcing it. And I don't think Kathy was totally on board with this. But again, in an effort to maintain that Disney corporate synergy, she was on board. Yeah, sure, give it a shot. Hey, what, you want to write a script? Get the Loki guy. That's fine. You've worked with him before. Let's see what you guys come up with. And apparently they didn't come up with anything really worth pursuing. Now, when Kathy talked about it at Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim, she acted like it was something that never existed and was only announced. I think the way she put it was announced in the media, via the media, meaning the Variety article, the Variety announcement by Alan Horn, who I guess on the totem pole at Disney, Horn would have been above Kathy Kennedy.
For sure.
But I'm sure
that might have been a little territorial dispute,
yes.
She announced that whole slate of movies, and within 6-7 months, Iger's like, our next movie is going to be The Mandalorian and Grogu. So she's been undermined before, she's been undermined a couple of times by leadership at Disney. This Alan Horn is another example.
So we have a video clip of Kathy Kennedy talking about the Feige project and how it never really took off. But she also denies that there was any Lucasfilm announcement of it. She says it was announced in the media, meaning it was out of her control. But I dispute this because StarWars.com did announce it. And we have a video of those two yahoos who hosted the This Week in Star Wars show, or whatever that was. They come on afterwards and they announce officially. You'll hear it. You'll hear Kathy deny it. And then we basically fact check her with StarWars.com itself.
Kevin Feige's project was something announced in the press, or I suppose fandom, but there was nothing ever got developed.
Right. Kevin Feige, diehard Star Wars fan, owner of multiple Hasbro Jabba's sail barges, and president of Marvel Studios, will now be able to add Star Wars producer to his list of achievements.
That's right. With the close of the Skywalker saga, Kevin Feige is set to co-produce an upcoming Star Wars movie with Kathleen Kennedy in a new era of Star Wars storytelling.
Was she just reading Alan Horn's quote from the Variety article? It sounds very similar to what he was saying about with the Skywalker saga over, a new chapter.
It almost sounded like a press release.
It did very much so.
So just to, disprove the narrative that there was really nothing there and it was only announced via the media. Well, your own media announced it. StarWars.com officially, that to me is an official announcement of Kevin Feige's involvement. So, but why dispute it any longer? Kathy's gone. Feige isn't going to work on Star Wars anytime soon. And there's new bosses all over the place. So by late 2023, Kevin Feige did indeed confirm that his Star Wars project was no longer in active development. So Kathy Kennedy said, well, it just didn't happen. But in essence, it's an abandoned project, right?
Yeah, I can't wait until all of these open loops and these loose threads with all these various creatives are just, the doors just shut completely. We'll get news. I mean, that Lucasfilm, the studio, will be the spokesman for these projects. We won't have to be chasing people down at cocktail parties to get updates on our Star Wars.
All right, I'll try to stop doing that. Usually they stop me at the door anyway.
Mac, if it's you, it's okay.
One other interesting note about the Yuuzhan Vong, though, is that from what we understand, Dave Filoni was messing around with bringing the Yuuzhan Vong into the Clone Wars.
I remember that. I was going to ask if they've been recanonized yet, but I don't think they have.
No, they're still outside of the actual current canon.
Yeah.
So the Yuuzhan Vong, that's some fresh stuff that can be picked upon for future Star Wars storytelling. Filoni, I guess he was going to take the Vong, and it would have been starting with a fresh slate. He would have introduced them into the Clone Wars. So the whole new Jedi Order, the whole 20-book series would have been deemed obsolete, or they would have had to work some sort of retcon for that to have happened, because Filoni wanted to introduce them into the Clone Wars, but the Clone Wars got canceled. And everyone knows the Clone Wars happens before the original trilogy even. So the Yuuzhan Vong would have become quite the threat to introduce at that part of the timeline. Because then the Yuuzhan Vong would have known about the galaxy when the Empire was in charge.
Boy, those were the days when Filoni used to just borrow stuff that he liked from the EU, and then they would have to, scramble and retcon it. But I always liked Dave's. I always supported Dave in doing that. I always thought that the tie-in material for me personally was a great farm team to sort of pick out the best and the coolest ideas and bring it into canon. But, there was that insistence that it was all canon, even before the reboot of the canon with Disney. It always had to be canon. And it's like you're releasing all these books and all these comics every year. You guys are just going to collapse under your own weight of the canon. And so, anyway, yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
What if they announce something like, oh, we're blowing up the canon again. The expanded universe is rebooting again. And, so Simon Kinberg's trilogy will be unfettered.
You know what, though? I don't know. At least in terms of publishing. I mean, the old EU, you did have things like the Vong, and you did have Thrawn, and you did have Dark Empire, and you did have these like big, momentous things that as Star Wars fans, whether you were reading the books or not, you were sort of aware of. I can't think of one major contribution that the publishing arm, one big arc, one big contribution that the modern EU, the new EU, has contributed.
Well, the High Republic does have its supporters. The High Republic.
I don't even consider that real Star Wars. Truly, I don't. I really don't. Because I'm talking about, I don't think you can compare High Republic to something like Dark Empire or the Yuuzhan Vong or Thrawn. Like, there's been, you know what I'm saying? Like big concepts.
Of course I do.
Yeah.
Of course I do. Of course I do. It was a richer tapestry that was being laid out by Star Wars Publishing back in the day.
Yeah.
And they built up a really impressive roster of expanded universe characters and situations. Guys like Timothy Zahn, Kevin J. Anderson, Aaron Alston, Troy Denning. These guys did a good job. It was some very interesting world building they were able to do. And Luke had that Jedi Academy, and it was a success, damn it. Well, sometimes it wasn't. Yeah. Sometimes there were forces, no pun intended, outside of his control. Or actually, pun intended, because, the dark side of the Force would mess with him, and the spirit of Exar Kun showing up to the Yavin Temple where Luke was training young Jedi. But he had a really interesting roster of Jedi that he was training. Mm-hmm. And you could really root for these characters, much more so than... And now listen, again, as I say, the High Republic has its supporters. And I know some people who love those characters. God bless them. God bless them. But I don't... To me, it doesn't scratch that itch like the old publishing used to, which I thought was awesome. I really enjoyed a lot of it.
I think the High Republic, the reason that, it's sort of its own thing. It takes place a long, long, long time ago. So things like the Vong and Thrawn, it intercepted with our world of Han, Luke, Leia, the droids. It intersected into all of that. And so I think that's why it was so impactful. Whereas when you think about those legacy characters, prequel era or original trilogy era, there were no big earth-shattering things that happen in the modern EU. Whereas all kinds of crazy things were happening to our beloved heroes in the old EU. And I wasn't even that big of a fan, but I do like the fact that it was bold and rich, and they just took chances. And that was like George. George was bold, rich, took big chances, created all kinds of crazy things.
They did kill off some characters in unexpected ways. They killed off Chewbacca. They killed off Han Solo's son. Ben Solo, right? Didn't they? Yeah, they killed him off.
They sure did. Yeah.
They did in the novel Star by Star. And they did take some big swings. When they dropped a moon on Chewbacca, that was a big swing,
It was. They got George on a loophole there.
Yeah, it did. It did. Well, you knew they'd have to blow up the expanded universe sooner or later, because they're not going to leave Chewbacca outside of future storytelling, especially with Star Wars returning to the silver screen. Now, I understood why they took him out for the novel, because you can't really write for Chewbacca. He doesn't speak English. So you can't use him as a source for dialogue other than Chewie roars in agreement.
Yeah. Right.
Chewie angrily roars. How many times as a writer do you want to do that? It's like, man, I wish I could kill Chewbacca. Lucasfilm said yes. Oh boy, I'm going to kill Chewbacca. And I think the guy who wrote that novel, that very first Yuzhan Vong novel called Vector Prime, I believe that guy received, for real, death threats for killing Chewbacca.
Yeah.
You don't kill Chewbacca and just walk away from it and just job well done, No.
Yeah.
Here comes the doxing, here comes the threats. And that's not cool, of course. No. We don't advise that, but it happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those were wild times, man. They really were when you look back on it. It was wild. Hey, let's talk about these rumors and these reports. Jim, I think you've got some Bothan spy reporting yourself here about these coming remastered original theatrical release versions of the original trilogy, talking about the way the films at least were, I don't even want to say the way they looked. This is what's kind of confusing about this, because it's like, well, how pure do you want to be? I mean, certainly they're going to remove all of the special edition changes that George made. They want to take it back as close to how they appeared in their original releases in 77, 80, and 83. But it sounds to me like they're doing a lot of cleanup. So I guess we could call this a restoration of the original theatrical releases. Because it's not like they just found an old print and they're going to just, dub it or clone it, copy it,
right,
and send it out to theaters. It just doesn't work that way. So what are you hearing?
Well, we have a Bothan spy who has followed all of this stuff very closely. This spy has had access to clips of the work in progress, and he's part of a group that knows everything about this restoration, or everything you could know about this restoration. So he's been feeding us information, and this is a follow-up to a previous report from last January. So to hear our original report, go back to the show from January. It was called Star Wars 4K Secrets Revealed or something dramatic like that. Yeah.
Right, right. Because the leaks, we covered the leaks where there were clips from remastered clips from all three films. And
that's right.
Yeah.
So a question you were asking in that original report was, are all of the films going to drop in 2027? Right. Well, according to our Bothan spy, who says it's purely speculation on his end, but he believes that, yes, they will all drop in 2027 because they're working on all three films simultaneously. He's seen clips from Jedi. He's seen clips from A New Hope. He's seen clips from Empire. And he believes that if they were going to be held out, like Empire, not released until 2030 for the 50th anniversary of that film, then they wouldn't be working on it right now. They would just prioritize A New Hope. They wouldn't spend time working on that restoration because they have 4 years to get it prepped. But they're working on all of them at once. So they're using the same cleanup techniques. Maybe some AI is involved in the restoration. But these insiders are seeing clips from all three films. They get possession of these clips randomly. And they're from all three films. So he believes they're all going to be released at some point in 2027.
I wonder, though, if this idea was percolating before they had that 2027 time frame for the Levy film. So they might have been working on this idea for a long time before they knew they were going to have a new movie ready for 27.
Right. This restoration, it appears, has been underway for quite a while at this point, especially with them working on all three films. So our source believes all three films from the original trilogy restored will be released in some capacity in 2027. And I agree, but I don't know if they're all going to receive a theatrical release. I think there will be a 4K original trilogy box sets that will feature all three films. Mm-hmm. Would I love to see that happen, though? Theatrical release for the restored original Empire and the restored original Jedi? Would I like to see that? Sure. Maybe they can do that. Whatever puts butts in the seats in movie theaters.
You know, it might also just be, rather than a big wide release, it might be kind of one of those event releases where, you know, certain cities are going to be running all three of the films, on one night or something like that. I could see that happening. But yeah, Jim, to get all three of these films widely distributed and released like they did in 1997,
right?
That doesn't seem it doesn't seem possible right now with the current environment for film in the theaters.
Well, I believe they rolled out the special edition with A New Hope special edition in January 97. Then they followed it up with Empire in February, like a month later. And then I think it was only 2 weeks after that when Jedi dropped. So we're talking maybe over the course of a month and a half where all three films got released, and all three films had solid box office.
And these were wide releases. These weren't Fathom events or just limited to certain markets. This was a wide release of all three films. It was very much unprecedented.
That's right. And will we have the opportunity to see the original Star Wars 77 on an IMAX screen? That's something I've been wondering. We probably already reported about it, and I just forgot. But so if anybody knows about that potential, let us know. Show at Rebel Force.
Well,
Radio.
I think that there were shots that were leaking that led people to believe, based on the aspect ratio, that they were, indeed preparing this for IMAX.
Okay, well, we'll have to research that, but I believe you, and I think that would be a really cool experience to see the original 77 release in IMAX, all cleaned up and looking great. So what about a home video release? Well, apparently someone who works at the Library of Congress stated that the restoration of the original Star Wars film will be available in 4K April 2027. So that means it could be released on Disney Plus as a streaming thing, or a Blu-ray release, or both.
Yeah.
And so that'll be happening April 2027. So he says take it with a grain of salt. But he said the guy works for Library of Congress.
That sounds pretty
he hasn't been able to confirm that's actually true. So he's sharing that information with me, and it seems legit, so we'll roll with it. There'll be changes to the audio mix. It's going to be a brand new mix that will essentially combine elements from all the different audio tracks for all the different releases for the original film. As we know, there was different audio tracks for everything from the 16 millimeter to the other versions of the film that went out there, the 70 millimeter or whatever. We also know there's different versions for the home video release. And we also know that there were different audio mixes for the special editions. So what's going to happen?
Wonder, what are they holding up as definitive when you have all those variations? That's why I was saying, is this, when they say that this is the original theatrical release, it isn't, because they're restoring the picture. They're restoring, or they're changing the audio. They're doing a new audio mix. So I'm just curious, what is the standard that they're holding this up against? What are they trying to replicate? The 16 millimeter release in 77?
Right. The 1977 mono mix.
Right.
Yeah, which one is it?
Exactly. Right.
Which one is it? Apparently they're going to take whatever, I guess, works best. So they're looking at each and every audio track that they have at their disposal over at Skywalker Sound, and they're making something cool happen based on those tracks. I hope in the original Star Wars, the original Empire Strikes Back, they make Vader say, "Bring my shuttle" again, as opposed to the long drawn, "Prepare my shuttle and inform the crew on the Star Destroyer I'm arriving there." Because it's silly to do so anyway. They're not going to have that reused footage from, strangely enough, Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Where Vader is flying into the Death Star 2, clearly. And they try to pose that as some footage from Empire Strikes Back with Vader flying into his Star Destroyer, which, oh my God, it has the exact same hangar that the Death Star 2 has.
Well, that was the inspiration, for the architect.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I love this hangar.
Well, it's it's Imperial standard, just because a star station has it doesn't mean it can't also be part of the interior of a Star Destroyer. Okay, I buy it. Whatever. I went on that ride at Disney. I know what you're talking about. So we are still going through the audio mix here and discovering new things. So they use the stereo takes for Aunt Beru, but in the scene before 3PO gets shot by the stormtrooper in Empire, he only says hello. once, like in the original mono track. So this guy is saying the soundtrack mix that we'll hear in these films will essentially try to, quote, thread the needle between all the original audio tracks to create something in between.
Something in between. Okay. All right. That makes sense.
And then with the audio mix itself, he said it's worth noting that the dialogue pans with the cameras and is positional relative to the camera. So, for instance, if a character is in front of the camera, you'll hear them in front. If they are behind the camera, you'll hear them from behind. So he said it could be a touch jarring when you listen to it with headphones, but when you hear it through a great sound system like a 5.1 surround system, it sounds really cool, where you're really immersed with the soundtrack mix.
Yeah.
So seeing it in a Dolby theater or an IMAX will be the way to really appreciate what they're doing with the dialogue, the sound effects, the music. Audio has been significantly cleaned up. They've even, these guys, they've even received, through however they get this stuff, several clips of isolated dialogue tracks without music or sound effects. One clip was the original version of Palpatine as he appears to Vader in Empire Strikes Back via hologram, and it's the original chimp-eyed Palpatine. Remember, it was an old lady wearing a cloak, and they superimposed chimpanzee chimp eyes on the damn. Phil Tippett came back from lunch, after a few pictures at the bar. Hey, I got an idea. Why don't we superimpose the eyes of a chimp on that lady's face? Well, yeah, sure, whatever. Let's go.
If we take that old lady's puss and we throw a couple of chimp eyes on her, that's going to create something.
To be a fly on the wall.
Oh, man.
So we do have that clip he shared with us. It's Chimp-Eyed Palpatine, Empire Strikes Back 4K restoration, isolated dialogue audio. Check this out.
The Force is strong with him. The son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi.
Ooh, that's crisp.
Yeah, it sounds good.
The audio is so crisp. Yeah.
Yeah, and the video looks good too. So we also understand there's going to be some deleted scenes perhaps available on streaming or future physical media release for the 4K remastered Star Wars 77. And a lot of them have been seen by our sources, and they say the majority look way better than the 2011 Blu-ray versions. Remember, they released with the Blu-ray, there was a disc of deleted scenes, right?
Sure.
And one of those deleted scenes was the famous Luke scene. It occurs early in the movie. He's doing maintenance on a moisture evaporator on Tatooine, and he catches something up in the sky. It catches his eye, and he pulls out his macro binoculars and looks through there, and he sees the Rebel blockade runner being pursued by Darth Vader's Star Destroyer. And the previous versions we've seen of this deleted scene always sucked. There was no audio, and there were just scratches on the frames. There was that ugly counter at the bottom with the numbers rotating, and it just looked terrible. Well, apparently that's been really cleaned up, as we see in this little video loop here, where you can see that the top clip is the original version as we've always seen it on the DVD and on CD-ROMs that were released back in the past. Now at the bottom, same scene, Luke looking up with the macro binoculars at the battle going on up above the sky with the moisture evaporator and Treadwell behind him, and it looks significantly cleaned up. So,
so they're even remastering and restoring the deleted scenes. That's incredible.
That's what we can assume by having access to this footage.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean that they're going to be inserting the scenes into the film. Like, this scene's not going to just show up in the edit, but they're taking the care to really clean up and restore essentially all of the original footage, or at least what's been released, the original footage from these movies. This is true. That's insane. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, so I mean that's really celebrating the 50th anniversary of Star Wars in a big, big way, and something that really needs to be done to preserve the history of the film as it was originally seen back in 1977. So maybe it doesn't have all the bells and whistles current films have with CGI and other special effects that are computer derived, but you have to preserve the charm of that original film. You have to preserve the groundbreaking technology as it was seen in 1977. It's just not the same with the special edition. I'm not saying it's better or worse. I'm just saying that you need to preserve history. And George Lucas knows this, and maybe he's softened in his stance about never releasing that original version again.
It'll be interesting to see, Jim, if George does any promotional work for this release at all. If he's there at the premiere, if he lends his celebrity and his clout to, I mean, you got to figure 50th anniversary of Star Wars, they got to roll the guy out there.
Roll him out.
Well,
you
John Williams is rolling these days. We just saw
poor John.
A clip of John Williams returning to, I think was it Boston, where he was, of course, the director of the Boston Pops for so many years. I think it was Boston. They rolled him out on stage, and it was giving me. It was like Ozzy Osbourne. Remember when he did that last concert and Ozzy was trying to stand? There was a moment where John Williams in that wheelchair, because the audience is going crazy, of course, giving this huge ovation. And, he's such a gentleman. He wants to get up and stand, and he just couldn't. Yeah. And it's really sad to see. But he had a big smile on his face and otherwise, looked like the maestro, as we've come to expect, but much older. So, with a guy like George, who's no spring chicken either, I hope they can get him out there and he's healthy and strong enough to, as you're fond of saying on this show, Jim, take his victory lap. I think he needs to take a victory lap for the 50th anniversary of Star Wars.
And I bet he will. I think we'll be seeing George out there in 2027. And that's something to look forward to.
Chewie, get us out of here!
All right, that's going to about wrap it up here for this week on Rebel Force Radio. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Hope you had a good time. I know we did. If you need more of that good time, like we said earlier, go to patreon.com/rebelforceradio and get your fill of all things and everything RFR, including the weekly full show video, the podcast you listen to right now. You could be watching. You are a supporter over on Patreon, plus those exclusive podcasts that you can't find anywhere else except on Patreon, Rebel Force Radio. Check it out, patreon.com/Rebel Force Radio. Also, we mentioned earlier that there's been just a dearth of content just put on our YouTube channel. It's great. Some of these interviews that have never been released in their entire video form outside of Patreon, those are now available. Many of those for free, gratis, over on the RFR YouTube channel. So please do check them out. Give them a thumbs up. Leave us a comment. It really, really, really helps. Those comments, you don't push those comments enough. I always feel so silly asking for them, but tell you what, man, they really, really help the algorithms over there on YouTube. Like, we're a podcast. I mean, that's our bread and butter is the podcast, but we love to spread the word of RFR on YouTube, and those comments and those likes and all that helps a lot. So please do that for us. We're also on the socials. We're on Instagram. We are on Facebook, so check us out, including the official Rebel Force Radio Facebook group. It's easy to join. Just got to answer a couple of questions, and away you go. And the website, of course, rebelforceradio.com. So please keep listening. Please keep spreading the word of Rebel Force Radio to the Star Wars fans in your life that maybe They've never even listened to a podcast, let alone a Star Wars podcast. So please do that. Please subscribe if your podcatcher of choice allows you to do so, and leave us a review. We love those reviews. Just one simple, small rule, please.
Make them good.
And we will be back next week with more Rebel Force Radio. But until then, for Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
The Force will be with you, always.
The son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi.